Excellent. Welcome to our special session, a speech-a-thon, so we can get longer speeches in and more frequent speakers at Online Presenters because we're such a large, wonderful, vibrant club. Now tonight, or this afternoon, or this morning, depending on where you're located in the world, we have these wonderful speakers coming into us today. First, we're going to hear from Nick Lahani, and he's going to be speaking to us about leadership. And then we're going to hear a panel presentation coordinated and organized by Elaine Lieberbrink, and she is going to guide us with what it means to be onboarding. And so we're looking forward to that. To get us started and behind the scenes, we have two timers that will be helping us. The first is Asil, who will be timing Nick's speech, and the second will be Tiger, who will be timing Elaine's speech. Asil, anything to make comments on as a timer?
I will be showing three colors: green at 5 minutes, yellow at 6, and red at 7. Oh my goodness, I need to change that. And then
Over time.
If you go over, Nick, 30 seconds, I will be showing this warning, okay?
Wonderful. And Tiger, can you give us an overview of your timing?
So for Elaine, it's a 40-minute speech. She's requested it at 7 minutes with her discussion with Nick. I'm going to give her a green. And then if she continues much past about 8 minutes, I'm going to give her the red. And
very good.
If she goes past 10 minutes, I'm going to jump up and down and scream and yell and say, Elaine, you're going too long. No, I'm just teasing. and there's going to be several, correct me if I'm wrong, Elaine, but there's going to be several panel members, right? So for each one, you want to get a green at 7. Correct? Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right.
And then at 40 minutes, you want me to give you the red, correct?
I would say give me at about 37 minutes
a green.
A green. It just means wrap it up, hon.
Okay, sounds good. At 41 minutes, I'll have someone tackle you, okay?
Okay.
Tackle sport.
Okay. There you go. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have two evaluators helping us out today. And the first evaluator will be, for Nick's speech, we have Tiger. And for Elaine's speech, we have Jim. Everybody good? Very good. And then I'd also like to say that Roger Fung is helping us behind the scenes, and he is going to step out in front to formally introduce Elaine and her panel. So we look forward to that too as well. Roger, thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. Everybody ready? You excited? Oh, good. Nick Lahani looks at a different aspect of understanding leadership styles today. He intends to begin with the Toastmaster version. There's only one version, Nick. And then he's going to introduce a style and a policy adopted by the New Zealand All Blacks, which is an international rugby team. They are undoubtedly the best in the world in their sport, bigger than New York Yankees, Chicago Bulls, and the Montreal Canadiens all wrapped up in one. What? What drives them? How do they continue their success year upon year? Some aspects of this style were evident in Nick's previous role as a technical director of a software company, and he will explain with examples. His speech title is A Very Different Leadership Style. His speaking time is 7 minutes max. And then please join me in welcoming Nick Lahani in his speech. Woohoo!
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Leadership styles. Toastmasters has got a whole booklet. Look, here it is. It's got pages and pages on leadership styles and, identify what yours is. I don't think that, a handful of pages on here really actually gives us a true insight into what our leadership style is. However, what I actually did was I went through the exercise and I actually found a certain number of interesting results. Let me share this with you. So leadership style, I found that coaching came up at the top. I think I've been a coach all my life. Democratic, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure I like that. I think I want the authoritative to be further up the field. Affiliative, altruistic, and so on. So you've got all these different types and definitions and so on. I'm a great believer in learning from life and learning from sport, and I love my sport. So what I decided was to give you an example of what New Zealand do. The New Zealand All Blacks team, that's what their rugby team is called. And they are the most amazing team that you've ever seen. They are just unbeatable. For 4 years, they actually went unbeaten. Can you believe that? How many other teams, professional teams, have actually gone through that? This is them holding the World Cup trophy. And it's not just one country. Rugby is played all over the world. These guys are amazing. They're very professional. They are a great team. They get things done. How do they get it done? Let me give you an example. The next picture on here shows them performing the haka. The haka is a Maori dance, like a challenge to the opposition. And they do this before every game. Some people respect it. Some people stand up to it. Some people don't like it. Some people fear it. But it brings them together in this kind of bond. And this is one of the key things that is available to them to actually become a team automatically, because they use the Maori ancestry. Now, it doesn't matter what your background is, you all take part in the haka. There are 5 things that I found that are not only understandable for everybody throughout the world, but understandable in business. And I'll give an example of my experiences afterwards. The first example is to sweep the sheds. What that means is clean up after yourself. After this, the World Cup game, when they won the World Cup, they're champions of the world. You know who cleaned their changing room? They did. Think about that. They clean up after themselves wherever they go, whether it's a hotel room, whether it's a changing room. They do not actually get above themselves in any way. When was the last time you swept your sheds? When they're on the top of the game, they adapt, because just like any business, the time to actually expand and diversify is when you're doing very well, and that makes you stronger. Responsibility. Each person is responsible for each other. They have mentoring for younger players. They also have standards. So, for example, when the head coach walked into a meeting a few minutes late, one of the senior members stood up, "Excuse me, coach, I'm sorry, but you're a few minutes late. Please don't do it again," and then promptly sat down. Nobody is bigger than the collective. And that's something that we can all learn in our daily lives. Follow the spearhead. What that means is if you've seen a flock of birds flying, and what they do is one bird leads, then is overtaken by another and another, just like they do in cycling in the peloton, because it shares the load. And also, ornithologists have proved that it's 70% more efficient to fly in a flock rather than separately, because of beating the air pressures and all those kind of performance measures. Stay with the flock, follow the spearhead. And finally, the 5th one is authenticity. Authenticity is to be yourself, to have your culture, to have that understanding. You don't want the best players, you want the players that actually believe in what you believe in, that you can rely on. And in this sport especially, you need team play. This whole collective, this leadership style, do you know what they called it? I can't say it. It's no D-heads in the team. We don't want any of these in our team, because when you do, it doesn't matter how good they are, they will ultimately always bring the team down at some stage. Let me take this in terms of a business point of view to examples that I can actually give. For example, the idea of cleaning up after yourself. I was a director in a software company. Guess what? I still had to make tea on my turn. I still had to clean the kitchen and when it was my turn. And I still went to get the takeaways on a Friday when it was my turn. I didn't sit in a nice fancy office with people running around after me. I sat with my team. That way, I'm always there, accessible, no prima donnas. Same thing with the spearhead. It's about development. It's about development of people. It's about responsibility, all of those things. We had an amazing period of culture-led growth. Culture-led growth, which took us from 5 million turnover to 28 million turnover in 9 years in a triple-dip recession. Not bad, actually. And these aren't dollars, these are pounds. Ultimately, in summary, can we actually do this everywhere? No. You can only do it when you have teams where you have people care for each other and they want the best for each other. Let's go and see if we can do some more of this. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. All right, evaluator, I'm sure you caught everything. Now, let me go ahead and, you still have screen share on, Nick. Let me go ahead and pass the baton to Roger. Roger Fung will be introducing our leader of the panelists, Elaine Nieberbreen. Roger.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Elaine is leading a discussions this afternoon on the idea of welcoming onboarding experience for new members. Now, whether we're talking about our club, any other Toastmasters club, a church, a company, when someone have decided to join an organization, sometimes it can be overwhelming in terms of learning what the culture is like. What's the practice? Is there some things, the do's and the don'ts? Well, Elaine's going to be able, today is going to share with us in terms of what her point of view of how we can put together a world-class welcoming onboarding experience. And she will be bringing along a number of panelists in discussing some of these questions and concerns. With that, let us welcome Elaine Nieberbreen, our Vice President of Membership.
Good day, fellow Toastmasters. Don't have any extra guests here, but replay viewers. I'm really hoping that this video recording of our program gets enjoyed by other members of other online clubs and advanced Toastmasters, because a lot of what we're talking about today will relate to them, and I hope everyone can be a little bit inspired. Think about a time when you were shopping for something, were a member of a community organization, or were a customer, and you had an experience so great that you felt like, I'm always going to recommend this service provider or this product. You were just astounded, floored. You felt so great. Well, think about that in terms of the experience of a new person coming into a Toastmasters club. Our esteemed poet, I don't know if we call her a poet laureate, Maya Angelou. This is a photograph from her giving an address at William Clinton's inaugural address, she shared with us a very well-known quote that I'm going to remind you about. And think about this. She said, "I've learned people will never forget what you said." No, let me start over. I stand corrected. Maya Angelou said, "I've learned people will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel." So what we're going to consider today when we talk about the onboarding experience and what can make it great is, how do we want people to feel as they're coming aboard a new club? What can help them feel companioned? What can help them feel safe and connected? What can help them feel courageous so they can be authentically themselves, sharing both their ups and their downs, their various perspectives? And what can help them truly feel creative as they're growing their skills, bringing their services and gifts to the world? This is what we're going to talk about today within the context of Toastmasters becoming an even more globally connected organization with the new proliferation of online clubs. And some of the clubs are advanced, so it brings a membership with some different needs. And also, we're in this digital space where sometimes it can be confounding, confusing. There are so many distractions. We're going to talk about that. And I have three very amazing panelists to accompany me today for this discussion. First on, I have Nick Lakhani, who has been in Toastmasters for only about 3 years, but he's moved on through the traditional pathway, through the traditional program, earning a competent communicator and an advanced leader bronze, but now he's working on through pathways, and he has participated, had experience in 6 different online clubs. Imagine what he could learn from that. And then I have with me Asil Boysanova from Kazakhstan. She's part of this dynamic global community here in Online Presenters. She has just reached her DTM and has had experience in the U.S. in her first Toastmasters club a good number of years ago, and now she's with us in Online Presenters. And lastly, I have International Director and Distinguished Toastmaster Carol Prahinsky, with a wealth of experience growing as a Toastmaster starting in 2008, serving as a professor at a university teaching supply chain management in the business school division of her university. Her first evaluations were, not so great. And she felt like there are things I can improve. And so Toastmasters was her way. And so in 11 years, she has grown up through the ranks. She's currently involved in 4 clubs, and she is serving on this international board of directors for Toastmasters International. So let me segue now into the real questioning and panel discussion part of this. And I'm going to start with Nick Lakhani. Nick, given that we're working in this digital environment now, what's important to bring into onboarding so people can feel great and courageous and curious, not confounded, in this digital space and with the different platforms?
Thank you, Madam Panel Master. In the digital age, well, let's just take a step back. The digital age is not so big, it's not so different. It's just a different means of communicating, that's all. Let's get to the bare nubs of the facts. The really biggest point I can make today was that joining my first Toastmasters club made me feel great. It was amazing. I had constructive feedback for the first time in my life, but it was soon followed within weeks by crushing blows. Simple things. I looked around. I looked and saw how I was treated, where I wasn't sure what I was doing, how I was doing it, and I was just left to my own devices as a brand new member. Now, I could have gone away and sulked and cried my eyes out and God knows what else, but I'm a fighter. And what I decided was that this place was so safe for me to speak at, and a place where I could learn, whether it's online or physical clubs, that I was protected. And that's why I became an officer. And that's why I went out of my way to say, I'm going to make this better. And one of the key things that I introduced as VPE in my first year as VPE was mentoring. Let me give you an example. Not just mentoring as you know it now, but I introduced startup mentors. What that means is that in any club, whether it's a physical club or an online club, there are lots of things that you want the person, the new member, to know. Who do they turn to? Who do they go to? Do they have the list? Have they read the handbook? Guess what? I wrote the handbooks and I know damn well nobody ever read them. Therefore, I actually had startup mentors to go and attach themselves. I didn't give anybody a choice. I just said, there you go. For the next 2 months, this is your mentor. They will get you up and running. They will get you access to all the portals that you need to answer any questions that you need to. And if they're not around, you've got the VPN, you've got the VPE, and every other member of the club to help you. You've got access to their phone numbers and their email addresses through the portals. Now it's your responsibility. We've done our bit. So show them what the expectations are. And I believe that is key today in any club.
Nick, Nick, we're bounded by our time. You've shared such gems with us already. I want to give some of the other people here, or panelists, an opportunity to either ask a question or make a comment on what you've spoken about, especially this startup mentor idea. Let's see, Tiger.
So Nick, when you did this program, when you initiated it, did you go ahead and assign a mentor to the startup person, or how did you initiate that process?
Well, we're hoping Nick's signal solidifies. His screen looks frozen for a moment, but this is a really good question that Tiger's asking about the startup mentor idea. Is someone just assigned? Are there a couple people in the club that might raise their hand and volunteer? Yeah, I'd like to be a buddy. I'd like to be a companion for someone new coming in, so they feel, they feel safe. They can feel companioned. They don't feel scared as they're going along. So is there anyone else that would like to make a comment about that startup mentoring idea, or anything else that Nick had to say for us? Go ahead, Roger.
Very quickly, Nick's audio is back, so maybe Nick can answer Tiger's question if he remembers.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question. Please repeat, Tiger, and I will certainly answer.
Yeah, real quickly, my question was, when you initiated this process, did you assign mentors to the startup people, or how was that done to make sure that the startup people had a mentor?
Yes, absolutely. What I did was, this was at a time when we were anticipating pathways, around about 18 months or 2 years ago. And what I did was I appointed a mentoring coordinator, and that didn't fully work out, but at least there was somebody there in name. And what I got them to do was to get hold of our current mentors, who are all on the traditional system, and then find 2 people who could act as startup mentors. And to be honest with you, initially we had a problem, but we actually had 2 new members who actually latched onto the system very quickly, and therefore we made them the startup members, and we actually, yes, did assign one of those 2 members to every single member that came through. We assigned them. We just said, this is your go-to person for the next month or 2 months. Off you go. Any problems, come back to us. And it generally worked very well, because not only did it help people orient themselves, we've actually had an increase in our retention over the last 18 months as well, which I believe one of the factors was this startup mentor idea.
Green.
So, Nick, I want to congratulate you for, coming up with this innovative idea, trying it out, refining or fine-tuning as you went along, and you just shared with us that it did really help retain membership.
Right.
Now, moving right along, I'm going to address a question to Asil Boisanova. In Online Presenters, it's a global club, and she is joining us from Kazakhstan. So, Asil, given that you started your Toastmaster journey in the U.S. as a native from Kazakhstan, and with English as your second language, what were some of the things that you were feeling? And as you began this journey, what was your welcome like there? And then, as you proceeded in different online clubs, how important was that onboarding experience? Share with us your perspectives.
Thank you, Elaine. First of all, I would like to thank Nick that he convinced me to visit Online Presenters, and then I joined Online Presenters this year, and now I'm having a great opportunity to learn from the best. So about my experience, my first experience, it was in Mobile, Alabama. First, when I came, my English wasn't that good, and I had problem with understanding. But the club actually offered a valuable environment to learn and to improve my English, and that they were patient, they were friendly, and I felt safe and comfortable with them. So they all helped me. Every member, they helped me. They asked me questions, and they kind of guided me through communication track. So I didn't like leadership track much, because if you remember that competent leadership had evaluator sections. So I always avoided that part. So that was why it took so much time to finish in competent leadership. Oh my goodness, it took maybe years.
So tell us just something brief about then coming into the online experience, and make it brief so that we have a chance for some of our other panelists and participants here to make a comment or pose a question to you.
Well, online club, I like online clubs because you meet people from all over world, and most for them English is a second language, so we have a secure place to learn, and everyone is supportive. So I don't think that it is a big problem for everyone, especially at Online Presenters. Everyone is friendly, and I like that we have this pre-meeting and after meeting session where everyone can introduce themselves, and then they give their feedback. And I also love that everyone was helpful, and now I have a great mentor, Roger, and I have people I can learn from them. So I don't have any problem as to onboard at online presenters. So we should just keep, I think, that way. And most important is to sign mentor to newcomers. So yeah.
Asil, the important thing I've heard you say is that time to build relationships before the actual meeting and after the meeting. It's after our recording time. That's when you get to know other sides of people, their skills, how they communicate, and that's been an important informal little way of feeling the sense of connection and growing it and feeling welcome. So thank you for that. Right now I'm going to move on to Carol Prahinsky. Carol Prahinsky, our international director. Carol, I have a quick question before I get to my main question. How many international directors are there in Toastmasters?
We have 14 international directors representing each region of the world and 5 international officers. We make up a board of 19 plus Daniel Rex, our CEO, of 20.
So, my dear Carol, to get to that elevated place where you're looking at the big picture and the policies and the overall operation of the organization, how can it really help the organization, fulfill its mission and trickle on down to all of us so we can have these great connecting experiences, building confidence? I now pose to you, from this vantage point, what really bubbles on up within you about making onboarding great, especially in online clubs and advanced clubs, while we're going through this interesting time of transition from traditional to pathways?
All right. So you asked like 5 questions in there.
Pick one.
So I'll do my best. At first, I think one of the things that makes any club successful is the people. It's the connections that we develop and the friendships that we have with others, the mentoring that is provided, the lessons that we learn, and the progress that we see both in ourselves and those around us. I think that's what makes Toastmasters so fabulous. We have many different ways to connect with Toastmasters, online being one of them. Of course, we have the brick and mortar, we have corporate, community, just all sorts of different types of clubs, specialty clubs. And you started out with a conversation about advanced clubs as well, very specialty-oriented vantage point. Now, one of the things that enables us to be successful and I'm going to refer now to online clubs, but it's how we reach our audience. How do we get new members? And many of us are coming in from perhaps brick and mortar clubs, and we're saying the timings aren't working right for me, or I need to be able to do this from home. I might have a sick person in my house that I need to address and take care of, but I do have the flexibility to get online. The other thing that happens is I was out there looking at a Forbes magazine article, and I said, oh, they're talking about starting a new online club to help people with online presentations. And I needed that particularly because I am, as a professor, I do teach online, and I knew that there was opportunity for growth, and I said, let me check it out. And so that's how I joined Online Presenters. I helped actually charter this club, and what a joy to work with such technologically advanced individuals as well as great Toastmasters. I will say, and this was not your question, but I still learned so much. And so the first night I was on the club meeting, we were not even a club at that point, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I better spend some time doing homework. So that club meeting ended at 9 p.m. my time, and I worked until midnight at my office trying to gather more information. That's how excited a person is when they sign up for a Toastmaster club. And for me, it was my online club. So I was reinvigorated. I'd already been a Toastmaster for 8 or 9 years. I was reinvigorated with that joy of being a novice. And boy, I have to say, sometimes it's scary, but in this case, for me, yeah, I was scared. Let's be honest. All right. But it's also fun, the fun of being able to transition from a nervous, scared individual to a person who's feeling much more confident and capable in a new environment of speaking. Back to you, Elaine.
So I've heard you talk about this experience of being a novice. So if you're coming either into a new club or an online club where the focus of building skills is a little different. Yes, indeed, you are starting afresh. So you had the opportunity to be a charter member. So at that point, onboarding wasn't quite established as a club. So I'd love just to hear what you think is important, might be important in onboarding in online clubs.
Well, Asil talked about the importance of connecting socially before and after the meeting, and I'm 100% behind that, because without that personal connection, it just doesn't, it's not successful. I think online communities are more challenging to brick and mortar because we can't stop and have that one-on-one conversation afterwards or before to ask the person, you know, I heard you say this, what did you mean by it? Instead, we have to work a little bit harder to have that one-on-one connection and conversation. And we have to find the timing that works right for the other people. Sometimes after, you know, the end of our meeting, boom, people have to go. And we have other things on our list. But those connections, I think, are so important. And so I'm in support of what Asil was saying about having that one-on-one connection.
So the one-on-one thing is important. If people don't enter or ask for mentors, how important is it, Carol, and others, I'll throw this out to the group, how important is it starting out in a new group to have a one-on-one conversation, not just around the meeting time, but a one-on-one separate conversation either with, say, a VPE or a Vice President of Education? Anybody want to respond to that?
Or Vice President of Membership.
Yeah.
I think you meant Vice President of Membership.
Yeah.
I think that one-on-one connection, and in our club and many clubs, the VPM, the Vice President of Membership, is really instrumental for that welcome. Congratulations. Do you have any initial questions for me? And I know with our previous VPM, our current VPM, they work pretty hard to make that connection. I think it's very important. Now, you also asked about mentors. How do we get mentors was an earlier question. Do we assign them? How is that connection made? I think the best mentors are the ones that the protege reaches out and says, I would like you to be my mentor. And here's my set of questions. But it is up to the protege to be, I'm going to say, aggressive in getting in front of the person who you want to have as a mentor, so that you're saying, I need this answer. What's your answer to this? I need your guidance. And it's up to the mentor to say, I have time for this. And that also needs to happen. I have time, I'm willing. I will add you to my list that is already so long. But just that connection is an opportunity for the new person to say, I would like this, and to work with the person that they feel that most resonates with them in terms of the feedback style or the content of that feedback.
Carol, that's great. So that takes, to identify a mentor, takes a little bit of looking around, being curious. What are the personalities here? What's the energetic presence that different people in my club put out? Who am I magnetized to, curious about, attracted to? And then checking with the VP of Education to make the link ups. Is that person available? You know, some of our advanced members are involved in so many clubs, they may not be able to take on additional mentors, but some would. It just takes asking. At this point in time, we're about ready to do a little overview and wrap up, and I'd like to ask each of my panelists to just share one takeaway from this conversation or a point they'd like to end up with. And Nick, I'd like to start with you.
Hi, thank you, Elaine. I'll do it by audio if that's okay.
That's fine.
What I take from this is that absolutely the social element is interesting, and the idea of having a one-on-one meeting is very interesting. I actually joined an online club where I actually had kind of like an interview or meeting with the president and VPE, which was very interesting, and you know, it actually helped me set my expectations. And also, set the expectations of myself as well as the club. So that way, there was less grey areas. And I think that was very good as well. In terms of online, especially for advanced clubs, we do need to encourage people, because just because somebody's an advanced Toastmaster doesn't mean they're necessarily all confident in all aspects, especially in the online world. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'd now like to pass this on over to Asil. Any things that occurred to you, responses that you'd like to share given our discussion today?
As I said, that social interaction before and after meetings, and also mentoring, and also support of members of the club. Back to you, Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carol Perhansky, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just thought of something, and it has to do with reconnecting. So every club has members that occasionally drop out for various reasons. They might have moved, they might have, you can fill in the blank. What we also do as Vice President of Membership is that we reach out to those former members and occasionally ask them, would you like to rejoin? Now we have to be careful with that because of, I think we have like 6 months afterwards where the emails addresses should be deleted. But if we're reaching out socially to reconnect with a person, I think that would be okay. And I just did that yesterday, actually. And so the timing is perfect. Reconnecting with a member that used to be part of Online Presenters and said, how are you? I haven't heard from you lately. I'm thinking of you, and this is why I'm thinking of you. And it has, whether she signs back up for Online Presenters or not, that's fine. But just to say, we are connected socially across the world. And just that reconnection just says, I'm still thinking of you, even though I haven't seen you in over 6 months. How are things? And I think that's what makes it so beautiful. We're not here just to have that learning environment, but we're in that safe environment, the supportive environment. And to me, that is just icing on the cake, is that we're all connected to each other in such a wide range. Thank you.
Yeah. The icing on the cake that you've just said comes back to me as this expression of, it's great. I love it here. I want to keep going back. Maybe I'll even get more involved given whatever else I have to balance in my life. But throughout everyone's comments, the things I kept hearing being mentioned again and again were the importance of membership, the importance of one-on-one connection, both with, say, interviews with the Vice President of Membership or Vice President of Education early on, and then those rich interactions that happen before and after a meeting. Yes, they can happen if we remember to do that. Before I do my final closing, I just want to ask if either Tiger or Roger has a comment that they would like to share. Yay or nay is fine, but just opening it up a little bit. Go ahead, Roger.
Somewhat of a summation of everything that's been talked about, where it's easier to take it for granted when we are in a brick and mortar club, because we do run into people, we don't necessarily plan as well. That on the one hand, being an online club, we have the convenience of logging in and logging out. At the same time, it also, if desired, requires us to be making more conscious effort in terms of the connections, the social connections, taking the steps to reach out, whether it be before, after the meeting, or emailing, or WhatsApping, whatever it is. So I think that is the give and take, good news, bad news, in terms of what it means to be an online club versus a brick and mortar club.
Thank you so much. And Tiger, chime right on in.
Well, real quick, I would just like to compliment you on your ability to carry on a discussion and keep within your time frame. You've done a very good job with your time frame, and that can be a challenge, but your ability to direct a conversation, get interesting points, has been exceptional.
Why, thank you. I wasn't thinking I was going to get a mini evaluation here, Tiger, but that's good. It means we feel so comfortable. We're just authentic with what's coming out in the moment. And that's a good thing in a club where we feel safe. I'm going to wind up by circling back to Maya Angelou. You'll never forget how someone made you feel. And so we hope not only in onboarding, but in our ongoing experience of relationship in a club, we are with each other in community so that we help elicit these feelings of confidence, connections, courageousness, and creative expression. We want to dissolve those resistances we have to letting our full light shine out and bless the world. That's why we're in Toastmasters, to bring these gifts forward, and I really appreciate our community in an organization that says we're here in a place where we make leaders become great. And that's the end of this presentation. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day, Carol Prahinsky.
Thank you, Elaine, and it's a pleasure to listen to you. Woohoo, yeah. All right, so now we're ready for the timing. Let's go to the evaluation portion, and then we'll get the timers report. For the timing of the evaluations, Roger, are you available for that? Or Asil? Asil, you've got the timing set up, right? I forgot to do the timing of the evaluations when I was setting things up. Asil, can you take that for me? I appreciate it. And let's go ahead and, thank you, Asil. Let's go ahead and introduce our first evaluator. That will be Tiger. Tiger is evaluating Nick's speech. Please join me in welcoming Tiger. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Exactly.
So, Nick, let me start at the very beginning. Your introduction was excellent. It was thorough. It was humorous. And I thought to myself, you know, my introductions to my speech are pretty weak. And I just thought that set a great groundwork. And then you started out, your beginning was powerful. It grabbed me. Your background that you used initially was black, and that highlighted you very well. I thought that was excellent. Your slides were apropos. You did the little analysis at the beginning, and then, you know, your picture of the team, and especially doing the little, I can't pronounce it, but the dance or whatever they did was just outrageous. I have stories about that in my past, but I won't go there. You added in humor. Your 5 things, you said 5 things. And then you specifically went through those 5 things. Often people will say there's 5 things, and then they give us 3, and you're kind of like, well, what about the other 2? Your slide of the D heads, I laughed. But the thing about it is it wasn't just for humor. I mean, obviously it was humor, but you made a very good point. So it wasn't just for the sake of humor. It actually worked well into your speech. I loved a couple of things you said. Sweep the shed. They do not get above themselves. What a powerful statement. I mean, for professional athletes to clean up after themselves, that's acceptable. I couldn't even get high school kids to do that. So that is exceptional and a great example. Again, sticking with your whole overall theme. Ultimately, in summary, what a great way to lead into your summary. I was very impressed by that. In terms of challenging yourself, I thought you left the slide of the team up a little bit long. You could have gone back just to your black and then come back with the D heads. I think it would have even had more impact. What other suggestions do I have? Actually, that's about it. Oh, your timing. you had to hurry right at the end. So you might want to pay a little more attention to your timing, because you said ultimately in summary, and then I think you recognized that the red was up and it felt like you rushed. Other than that, it was an excellent speech. Very well done. And a very interesting way to take kind of a boring topic and make it interesting and humorous. Thank you.
Woohoo! Yeah, another one. Thank you. Pleasure. Tiger, it's always a pleasure to hear you. Now let's go on to our second evaluator. Our second evaluator is Jim Barber, and he is going to be evaluating Elaine's panel and how she managed it. Please join me in welcoming Jim.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and my fellow Toastmasters, and of course, especially Elaine Nieberding. Wow, Elaine, I'll just sum it up in that one word, wow. This was a great activity. This was definitely unusual, at least for online presenters. We normally do a 5 to 7 minute presentation. You were almost like the Toastmaster of a meeting. You were conducting it, but it was more than that, because you had to provide a bridge between the panelists and yourself, and so it was even more involved than typically being Toastmaster. In other words, this was a complex, difficult effort, and you knocked it out of the park. You were great. Let me get down to specifics. Vocals, everything pretty much was, with a couple of exceptions that I'll mention in a moment, everything was top notch. I love the way you described, it's great. That was fabulous. I nailed you last time about your tendency to go to and from these camera, and you weren't doing that as much today. Congratulations. You kept your gestures pretty much in the plane of the speaker. You weren't reaching to the camera. You yourself, you do that a little, still do that a little bit, but not a lot. It was much better than before. Let's see. I loved your introduction of the panelists. You have a great video presence in general. Let's see, let me give, I love the way you interrupted Nick. At one point you needed to get in and say something, but you didn't do it like it was obtrusive. You just worked your way in, and that you did that very nicely. In fact, your interaction with all of the panelists was top notch. You were very, very good. Couple of things to address. At the beginning, you used the words Clinton's inaugural address. I have to go back for the replay on that, but I don't think that's the right word. I think you wanted inaugural. It wouldn't matter, except of course this is being recorded, so everybody's going to hear that from now on. But you said it with confidence. I give you credit for that. That was great. Later on in the thing, this is a little tiny thing, but it's something to work on. You said at one point, I'm going to address a question to Asil. Don't tell us what you're going to do. Just go ahead and do it. Here's a question for Asil. Same sort of thing. A little bit later, you said, at this point in time, that's trite. Say now. You said, Nick, I'd like to start with you. I'd now like to pass this to Asil. I just want to ask, I'm going to wind up by, all of these are rather tentative statements. Strong leaders don't like to do something. Strong leaders just go ahead and do it. But again, for the amount of time that you were talking in, this was great, a great presentation, and I'm not saying you did anything wrong. This was fantastic. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jim. I just felt the need here to say, when we say I think, I like, I feel, all of this, delete, delete, delete. I'm so in alignment with your statements, Jim. Thanks for catching it. I think we all have something to learn from that. And at this point, we don't have a general evaluator. Roger, would you like to take that, or do you want me to take it?
Sure, I'll give a couple of general evaluation. Thank you,
Thank
Madam Toastmaster. Number one, this is a little bit different compared to our regular meeting, because we have a little bit less a number of people. So all of our heads actually are a lot bigger on my screen. And it does give you, since Elaine mentioned about the feeling, it did give me a little bit different feel of this meeting where I feel a little bit more intimate. I feel like I'm actually talking or connecting to more to each and every one of you, and less of a stand back and let me give you a speech type of meeting. So that's one thing that I picked up. Number two, Elaine, couple words, a couple R, I'm doing the R counting for you. You'll know and so's. Those are a couple things you might want to rewatch the video. Tends to use it as a bridge to the next phrase. I like your wrap up, and this is more of a, not a suggestion, but just more of an option depending on the type of panel discussion that is being given, that at the end when you do a wrap up, if it's appropriate, it may be beneficial for a 30-second wrap up of what the panelists might have mentioned. That, hey, we've heard from the three panelists and we heard about X. We heard about, it doesn't have to be delineated and say, well, Carol told us this, and still not necessary. You can sum it all together. We heard about a concern about X, there's the Y, there's a Z, and boom. So then that way you are also practicing that active listening. And as Jim have said, this is a wrap up. That's why this project for Elaine is a level 5 project, because you have all these built up from the skill set being picked up from level 1 through 4, that you're bringing everything together. Overall, Carol, you have a good control of what you want to get done, who does what, and so on and so forth. So kudos, everybody. Excellent work. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have a few minutes, so if anybody would like to make feedback, to give feedback on the meeting as a whole, I think we can open it up for your comments today. So let me go ahead and ask, would anybody like to give feedback on the meeting as a whole? All right. Okay. Nick, and then Jim, and then I'll jump in. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. I really like these speechathons because it's not about the timing. It's about the smaller group and sometimes more committed group on the night, as it were. We're not just an extra rolling in 5 minutes before the start of the normal club night. So possibly we may have a role, possibly we may not. We've been at work, we've been this. Because this is focused, because this is a smaller number, I feel as though the 3 or 4 speechathons I've attended, I've got a lot more out of it on average than any club meeting I've ever been to online. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jim.
I wanted to apologize first for signing up for so late for this. I didn't know until this morning whether I would be able to be here or not. So it wasn't lack of interest. It was just a scheduling problem. The only other thing I really wanted to say is what I thought it was a great meeting. It was a great presentation. I already told Nick, I don't know if I did it privately or not, what I thoroughly enjoyed his presentation. And of course, I already just got through telling Elaine what a fantastic job she did. I thought the meeting as a whole was fantastic, and it's a great thing to do. That's all.
Wonderful. Thank you. I would like to,
Oh.
Elaine? No, Elaine?
Yeah. Just has been said before, it's great having an experience with my compadres here, feeling them a little bit more intimately. I feel that. And I so appreciate that this is a global community. Kazakhstan. Nick, are you in Great Britain or are you in New Zealand? Where are you anyway?
Great
Well,
Britain.
Anyway.
I think Nick is frozen. He's in London.
I'm loving the global connections we have.
I just wish I was in New Zealand. I think it's warmer there tonight now.
Wonderful. Roger, back to you.
Carol, one more comment about as a watcher in terms of the background. Tiger, if you can have a little bit of shades from your light source behind you, then it may not be as bright. And Elaine, very similar to your situation when you turn on your green screen, you may want to test a light gray background instead of a bright white background, because watch the video later on, it makes you glow like you were a halo effect. So if you have instead of bright white, maybe slightly light gray, then I think it might come out better. Just a test.
Good.
Back
Good
to you.
suggestion. Thank you.
Roger, what did you think of my backgrounds? I changed it 3 times during the meeting.
You
hope it
were
wasn't just-
fine. You were fine. It was not. It was not too much. It was, even though there is some, the differences in the graphics in the back, but the image as a whole was easy to recognize. So it's not like I would have to focus and say, okay, what's going on behind her back? It's boom. There's pictures. I mean, there's flowers. So it was fine for me.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It's the first time I've used it. Asil?
Carol, maybe you need just a little bit back up, just a bit. Yeah, that's, not that much.
Okay, thank you so much. Asil, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, the one thing that I saw, two things. One was, I think we could do a better job with promoting our speechathon, and I'm not aware at all of what we are doing. I'm looking more solely at myself when I say that, and I say, I could have done a better job reaching out and saying, Vice Presidents of Membership, you're going to want to attend this speechathon because we're going to have a panel of experts coming in talking about what it means. And this would have been not so much a focus, Elaine, on online advanced clubs, but a broader focus on what it means to be a member of Toastmasters in general, and how do we make those connections in general with an angle of online advanced clubs. So just a broadening of that. And I think I could have done a better job in marketing it, but I also think each one of us is responsible to reach out somehow, some way, and connect with other Toastmasters around to say, we have this coming up, this special event. Elaine, this is a special event, and I want to tell the world about it. And I would like us all to help with that promotion. I think we can do a better job with that. Roger, I see that you're jumping in. Let me finish with my second point, which was the scheduling. I got a little confused with the various emails I was receiving. Elaine did have a somewhat complex plan for what she wanted to do today in the panel. It was complex to me, Elaine. And Roger, you stepped in and started helping out, and then I got confused by that. Why is Roger stepping in? And Elaine explained it to me about half an hour before the meeting started. So I was all set by the time the meeting started, but I do have to say that the emails themselves were a little bit confusing for me. And it was because Elaine said, I've got an extra half hour, I'm going to be online. Join me if you have any questions or thoughts. And I'm like, I'm there, Elaine. I'm going to ask you these questions. And that helped me tremendously. So thank you, Elaine, for making sure that I was set up, ready to help you be successful. Now I'm going to pass the baton to Roger.
This is a follow-up of what you just mentioned, Carol, in terms of this particular topic and format, is that if there is an interest, whether it be Elaine and others, would like to expand this, let's say by inviting possibly 2 or 3 members from different online clubs or brick and mortar club, and target this more of Toastmasters International clubs in general, we can always call a special meeting. Doesn't have to be our scheduled speechathon. Then we can do a better job in terms of, okay, we're going to schedule this a month ahead. Here's what's going on. We got 3 international Toastmasters
Lovely speakers that will be helping with the panel presentation. There you go. Roger, you're wonderful. Thanks so much for helping us out. Any other last comments? Timers. We had 2 wonderful timers. You have posted the times in our chat. Would anybody like that opportunity to simply summarize it orally? Tiger?
The panel discussion was excellent. Elaine was right on, 5 to 7 minutes per person. Every person was in 5 to 7 minutes, 34 minutes overall. That's a difficult thing to pull off. And just an excellent job. The timing was right on. So excellent.
Woohoo, woohoo. And Asil, thanks for stepping in and helping us out. How did we do on the timing that you were responsible for?
Let me find, Nick, 7 minutes, 28 seconds. And Jim, 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And Tiger, 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Back to you, Madam Toast.
Thank you. Everyone was in time. Can we just celebrate that? I think it's so honorable that we have so many people that respect time in this club. So woohoo to that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and not wrap it up because I see Elaine has her hand up. Elaine, back to you.
So as Vice President of Membership for online presenters, you know, there's only a window of a couple days. Come on, renew, think about it. If you need help in online presenters, ask for help. We want to make your experience great. We want to help you feel great. And for every other club that's around there too, and anybody that's watching this replay, think about what it takes to have a great experience. If you aren't having one, have conversations and ask for help. Make connection.
Thanks, Elaine.
My very last point, a seal. A seal, I love a seal. A seal has been the one that has inspired me to start playing around with the whole background thing, because she really, to my recollection, before anybody else, started playing with the backgrounds. And so, amazing asset to our club. Love you, a seal.
Right. Woohoo! All right.
Thank you.
And any other hands up? Thank you. Any other hands up? And then it's a wrap. Off we go into the rest of our day and evening and morning. Have a great one.